And we're live.
Sweet.
Awesome. That was
That was
easy.
easy.
I was a little disappointed. There's no like fireworks
Should be. There should be.
for sure. But Jan, aka Jan-Niklas, you are with me. Hello. How are you doing?
Very happy to be here. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
We were talking before the stream about visiting America and other countries and how names get mispronounced. But I want to start with something slightly more optimistic. What's your favorite part of America that you've visited and like not stayed more
Oh,
than a week?
so it's definitely not New York. I stayed in Manhattan for a week and it was just awful. I was so glad to be home after that. It's just too much. It's just so overwhelming.
Mhm.
It's also not Salt Lake City because Utah is just crazy with laws without going into details, but they're just crazy.
So what is crazy with
Utah.
laws? Oh, Utah with
Yeah.
laws. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I got kicked out of a bar with my baby because babies are not allowed in a bar.
Were they worried about the baby having one
I
too many?
don't ask me. I was not in a position to reason.
Sure. Hey, Damien.
um, I do like Phoenix, particularly in like the
Mhm.
colder months, because it's still like nice. You can go out with a t-shirt and shorts. Pretty nature. The Grand Canyon, even though it was underwhelming, like from a European perspective, it was like, oh, I have to see the Grand Canyon, and then it's like, huh, there's a hole. Huh.
It's a canyon. Yeah.
It's a canyon. Um, I still want to do Napa with my family. I think that would be
Mhm.
fun. There are definitely a couple spots that are still on the to-do list. I like Denver. Denver's fun.
Mm. Denver's really beautiful too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
very.
think that whole part of the country, the mid southwest, Denver down to New Mexico, all beautiful,
Yeah,
Arizona.
yeah.
Yeah. We did a drive from Sedona, Arizona
Sedona's
through
so nice.
oh my god.
Yeah,
I hurt my back in the car just from sitting so long, and it was still absolutely worth it. Just like these
yeah,
long trails of just beautiful road, the red rocks,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Love Sedona. We did that last year. It was really pretty.
Hell yeah!
Kansas City is
And
also nice. Kansas City is also nice.
well,
Great
do you
barbecue.
live there right now?
Maybe.
Okay,
Yes. Just for the record, Kansas City does have the best barbecue. I've tried it now in every other place that says they have the best barbecue in the States. No, Kansas City is the best.
who says they have the best barbecue, and what is it about KC's that is the best?
So Texas has similar good barbecue. I have to say that. The main difference between Texas and um Kansas barbecue, Texas works mostly with like dry rubs and like just different spice blends, while Kansas City, yeah, we're a big fan of barbecue sauce here. And like good, like rich barbecue sauce, not like is it Atlanta that does like vinegary barbecue sauce?
The eastern parts of the South, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Um, and that's just weird. I'm not digging that, but um, from like the dishes that you have, like Kansas City and Texas is very similar, just different spices and what you use usually
Mhm.
most of the time.
Spices are key. Although I
Yeah,
feel like sometimes I prefer and I really want like a dry rub, and sometimes I really want a wet rub. Is that the right
yeah,
term for
that's
that?
fair. That's fair. And then you're in that case, you're probably better off in Texas because here everything is drowned in barbecue sauce in a good way. In a good
That
way.
that's a good thing. Yeah. We've been watching off and on the Hot Ones interview show. I've been a fan for a very long time, and I
Which
went
one?
to Hot Ones. It's the interview show with hot questions and even hotter wings, or maybe it's vice versa.
No. I think I've
It's
watched some things like that on TikTok, so I have an idea what you're talking about, but I've never heard of it.
okay. I'd highly recommend it. Not
Okay.
just because you watch these absurdly famous celebrities like Jeff Goldblum and Natalie Portman answer questions while eating exponentially hotter and hotter wings, but also because the interviewer Sean Evans is actually a very good interviewer.
Nice.
I learned a lot from it. It's quite good, quite well done.
Interesting. Gotta check that out. That sounds pretty good.
But I bring it up
Cool.
because we've been getting into wings whenever we watch that show. Wings are key.
Kansas City, there's this one place that is known for their brisket, but damn, their wings are so good. And there was actually
Mm.
once like a German cook coming here and competing with them on that, and the effort they put in those wings is just bananas. With like how long it's prepped and like basically like just the whole preparation aspect is just bananas.
Beautiful.
But stupid good.
I really respect any form of creation where the act of doing it has been honed over years and years, and it's not just
Yeah,
like they're doing work for the sake of it, but like I'm sure every part of that process had a reason and actually contributed to the end goal, right?
yeah, yeah. It's definitely one of the things that I appreciate about Kansas City is like with the restaurant scene, it's just very good.
Mhm.
It's just very good food.
Love it. I was there. I think was it when we met? Was KCDC last year? Was that our first go
No,
to?
I just swing by KCDC last year for like a couple hours, and when my wife did her talk, too, I was on baby duty during that time, but I don't think we met at Def Reach, right? I
Yeah,
just
we walked,
cannot
kept
remember
doing
where that
laps because
was.
your kid was tired or not
Yeah,
tired enough.
uh, jet lag. It's terrible.
Jet lag. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh well. Well, speaking of processes that last a long time, but each individual step was informed by years of experience and helps create a better output, let's talk about coding. Ha, ha. Hey,
Ooh, not bad, not
Jan,
bad. I see what you did there.
thanks. I worked on that one. Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, my name is Jan-Niklas Wortmann. I'm developer advocate for JetBrains and doing JavaScript and TypeScript stuff. I'm also a GDE for Angular. I'm part of the RxJS core team, so doing web stuff.
Mhm.
What
Web
about you? Who
stuff.
are you, Josh?
Great question. Um,
Right?
I don't know anyone's asked me that on the stream before. I really respect the reverse card. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a full-time open source maintainer, developer in the TypeScript ecosystem. So honestly, you and I were very bordering, even overlapping at times, but it's really amusing to me how we don't actually have that many projects in common. Like
That's
you're in
true.
Angular land, I typically
Yeah,
work in like React. It's fine.
yeah,
But one thing we do share is a love of dev tooling, I think.
yeah.
And I've been really
That's fair
excited
to say.
about this whole area for a while.
Yeah.
So you were kind enough to help me out getting a trial of a Webstorm. More than a trial,
Yes.
quite a lot of months. And I gotta say, this is silly, but I'm gonna start sharing my screen. The first thing that jumped out to me is like, oh my god, why the hell don't I have this already? Is you have extremely customizable squigglies
Mhm.
in like I don't know what do you, is there a more formal term than squigglies here? You know what I'm talking about?
We call them warnings.
Warnings.
But it's very broad term because technically we also call a warning like if you have like a grammar issue or something.
Okay.
It
Yeah, the how do you get to it in the settings again?
no, you're putting me on the spot. Are you expecting me to know those things?
Just know everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Inspections maybe?
Inspections. Ah, there it is. Thank you,
Yeah.
support. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. In VS Code, uh, um, and I'm just blatantly pooping on VS Code now. My favorite editor prior to this. I'm so sorry, Microsoft. But in VS Code, you get just the squiggly underneath it, and you get blue for info, yellow for warning, red for error, which is fine. Except what if you have two tools that aren't symmetrically the same and both report in terms of errors or warnings, like
Yeah.
ESLint and TypeScript?
There are definitely benefits to that. It also does come with some complexity because yeah, you have to um on like a programming model, you have to do.
Nope.
You're not sharing your screen?
I thought I was. You know what it is? Thank you, Yeltra, for saying something. Also, shout out to the chat. Anyone who wants to speak up, ask questions, let us know if anything is not showing. Please,
Huh.
please do.
Huh.
Should show up now in a moment. There we go.
Okay. So the nice thing from a user's perspective, I think it's on the one hand nice if you want that level of customization. On the other hand, it might be overwhelming if you don't want this. And that is definitely one of the like a fine balance that we're trying to find, because you already opened the settings. There are like a bunch of them. So some of that might seem complex and intimidating. So we're trying to get a good balance on that. And definitely if you're working on your own plugin, it adds complexity knowing about like this different level of like, okay, how is a weak warning now different from a warning?
Sure.
Well,
That makes
honest
sense.
be told, I don't even know what the difference is. My colleague just told me use a weak warning here.
A weak warning for
So,
ESLint?
well, I was working on an Angular improvement where you can like run automatic migrations. Long story, but so it's definitely a nice thing, but it is somewhat complex.
Mhm. So let's say that I wanted to change all ESLint warnings to show up as weak warnings.
Hmm.
Hit apply and okay. What if I wanted? Is there a way to get all in addition separately from this, all ESLint warnings or errors to show up as like a weak error or some such, like textile error?
That is a good question. Let me consult one page that might know that. Give me a second.
Sure. By the way, I'd love to know if anyone in the chat has any questions on this, and if any of y'all would like to see if there's anything particularly fancy that we can do with the editor, or if you have any editing needs, let us know. I love how a lot of this stuff is built into ESLint.
And that's one of the things that we try. We try to provide like a great out of the box experience so that you don't have to mess with like plugins and stuff. That's like philosophically a little bit of a difference of like how we try to do things different than VS Code. And writing plugins for our platform, if you know Kotlin and stuff, it's not as easy as it is for VS Code. I have to say that.
So
And I don't
wait,
know
so
Kotlin.
me neither. I've heard great things though. I like honestly like Swift to Objective C levels up so much better than before.
Yeah. And it like reading the code seems pretty intuitive, but then I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And I just get a bunch of code and it just works. That's how I work with Kotlin right now. But like reading Kotlin code is surprisingly easier.
Mm-hmm. Gonna look this up on the internet once the homepage. So why is Webstorm better than VS Code? We're instantly starting to flame
Shots
in the
fired.
comments. Shots fired.
There, it's more from my perspective, and I am biased here. So I have used VS Code though before, so I feel like I have some saying in this story as well. So the thing is, language server as a protocol have limitations, and VS Code, all the language integration is built on language server. TypeScript is a little bit of a special situation because they're not fully in line with the language server specification, but in general, language server as a protocol do have limitations. For instance, one thing that is extremely hard in a language server to do is react to file name changes, which is an important thing for particular in web frameworks where the file name refers to a component name in the end, for like this in Vue, for instance, or Svelte. So doing things like that can then allow you in Webstorm to do very sophisticated renaming based on the AST. Whereas in VS Code, if you have ever renamed a file, you have a rough idea what I'm talking about. It's somewhat painful. So on the other hand, having that said, like providing support for a language in our tool, like Astro or something, requires you to implement a Lexer parser and deal with the AST, which is not a trivial task to do. For Josh, it might be easy after working with ESLint for like a bazillion years now, but for like the normal people, it's definitely not a common thing to do. And that is even excluding like things like all the file abstractions that we have in place to implement caching and things. But like just dealing with the AST is definitely not intuitive, and then in a skill set that you usually don't need as a developer. Let's be real.
Yeah.
As long as you're not working with like tooling aspect and stuff, you don't care about an AST as a developer. So that's definitely one of
Yeah.
the things where like, yes, our integrations are more complex and more complicated in maintaining it. On the other hand, we can provide very sophisticated refactorings and those kind of things. And we know a lot about your code base. Like like a couple weeks ago when there was like a mock-up screenshot of where it tells you based on the file name how often a file is included somewhere, like a component, for instance. Besides the fact that this is a performance nightmare because you have to deal with the entire AST for the entire project at any time, like we do have this information. We could do that. And on a file level, as you see here, one usage in the upper left corner, we do this already. So using the AST has benefits and disadvantages here. But that's definitely the strong thing, I would say, is like, okay, we take a lot of like the complicated stuff away from you so that we can provide you a good experience on things.
So a few things jump out to me. One is that it gets brought up once in a while, very reasonably so, for tools such as ESLint, that it would be nice to be able to work more on the AST level. Like for context, right now, ESLint rules, although they receive the abstract syntax tree, the representation of code as objects, they report suggested fixes as text changes. Fixer.insert text here or replace node with some other text type stuff. And one of the big reasons why is that if you start working at the AST level, you then have to manage formatting, because if you're just saying, okay, replace this whatever variable with that function call, well, how do you do spaces, semicolons, lines? And that's not an area that's easy to figure out for the user. Does that make sense as a problem statement?
It is terrible. It's the worst. Yeah.
So I imagine that in Webstorm side, there has to be some sort of like heuristics engine, or just figuring out from the project, like what are your vague general settings that user tends to want, right?
Yes. Like the most obvious feature in that sense from my perspective is like auto import, right? Like you have a TypeScript interface that you export somewhere, you reuse it, so you import it. And because we're lazy, but you can do imports in like a bazillion different ways, particularly if we're talking about ES modules and CommonJS. But even without that, you can still import something as a type. You can import it. You might already have an import. In Vue, you do imports in the script block. And all those shenanigans, like getting that right is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And this even doesn't deal with like the whole the whole problem space of like you might have like redundant symbols where you need to identify like what is the user actually referring to.
Sure. That's wild. I mean, how does any editor do that, right?
The TypeScript language server has an insane implementation for that. Really insane. So we decided not to use that, but that's a different story.
Sure. We have a question from the chat. I'm going to direct this at both of us because for me the answer is no. Have you
Same
tried
here.
Zed? What is
I've
Zed?
heard good things, and it's definitely a thing we have an eye on, obviously, as a competitor. So it's browser IDE, if I'm not mistaken, or code editor, wherever you draw the line. That also heavily uses LSTs, if I'm not LSPs, not under the hood.
Cool.
I've heard good things, and we're working pretty close with the Astro team. I know they recently merged Astro support for their LSP.
That's cool.
And I've heard it's insanely fast in terms of the editing experience. But I've not used it yet.
Electron. Okay. I really like the design system on their site. It's like architectural blueprint kind of shindig.
Yeah, it's very minimal also. I like it.
I like minimal. Cool. One more thing before we dive into a code change. I wanted to note, I'm looking at this what is this little example here. What is that symbol? It's an
Mhm.
eye with an arrow pointing up. Okay. What is that? Is this just like there's info you can click? Implements property message. Oh. Okay. And
So
then you have a
you
test runner.
yes, we don't we have like a bazillion test runner for like v-test, jest, karma, and all those things. But yeah, that's like that's part of like the out of the box experience that I'm talking about. We identify what's the testing framework you use, and then integrate that in our IDE with also like debugging capabilities and all those fun things.
Okay, I'm trying to debug it. Oh, there we go. Plays. Cool. Wait, so what happens if the user is doing something funky? Like, let's say they have like a package JSON script or something that runs vtest with specific args, and they just always have to run tests that way.
And
Will it break?
and that's like a difficult thing. We can still we have ways to hook into or to the attach a debugger to processes like that. So for instance, if you have like Angular CLI is a great example. They there you have like the Angular CLI serve something something, right? And it puts
Mhm.
out a URL. If you do shift left click, we attach our JavaScript debugger to that URL so that you can debug then that browser instance in Webstorm. Does that make sense?
Sure, it's like auto attach.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we do the same thing with things like the Node.js test runner that is like pretty recent in like Node 20 or something. Um, yeah. It
Cool.
is. There are definitely limitations to that. If you decide to go like full blown custom and provide or write your own shell script to write your tests, you're kind of on your own. But if you stick within reasonable parameters, we do our best to identify that and help you with that.
Sure, that makes sense. It feels to me, as it long has, that there is this kind of spectrum, this inevitable push and pull between, on the one end, letting users set up and configure everything, which VS Code I think is a little closer towards
Yeah,
that side of the spectrum,
yeah,
versus providing a really nice out of the box experience. And the
yeah.
two are both totally valid techniques, right? Like, it's not like one is always better. They just have
Yes.
different iteration forms and different ways of presenting themselves to users.
Yeah, but I mean, having that said, this is also the reason why we very rarely support like experimental or out of like or highly under development stuff because it takes a lot of effort for us, and we need to be sure that this is something that sticks with the community before
Yeah,
we feel comfortable putting in that effort. And I mean, development is
sure.
always a matter of trade-off, right? So we do either A or B. We won't do both.
Yeah.
So
And it takes effort just to make yourself extensible, let alone to use that extensibility.
yeah, the so um like the whole JetBrains IDEs are like basically like a whole one big mono repository where like all the features of WebStorm are accessible in the higher IDEs like IntelliJ and stuff like that. But like checking out that repository, running tests and stuff, holy moly, takes some time. And we
Love
already
it.
have like things in place like shared indexes where like we share all the indexes with like all the other developers and stuff. But like working on a mono repository with 1,000 developers is interesting.
It's a whole experience. Well, we can get into that some other time because I'd love to talk about scale tooling. But for now, what I'd love to do with you is walk through doing just like a basic code change in one of my repos, the one we have open with WebStorm. Does that sound good, or is there anything you
Yeah.
wanted to cover first?
No, no. If there are any particular questions in the chat, I'm happy to go over that. But let's do that. That sounds fun.
Awesome. Uh, yeah, so I initially thought, well, what if we bumped the latest version of TypeScript ESLint that we released yesterday? And then I figured out, oh, wait, no, that would involve a lot because that would involve moving to ESLint flat config, which is a giant change for this repo in particular. So instead, let's do just like a basic one that that's just from the like the repo as an end project, nothing around like tooling fanciness. First off, what I normally do when I see a pull request or an issue is I want to like check out the branch or make a new branch. Is there a
Hmm.
terminal that I can launch from Webstorm? And what is
Yes.
the shortcut for that?
I think I am switching keyboards right now, so my muscle memory is struggling. But you see on the lower left corner, the third button,
Terminal.
that is a terminal. Um,
Awesome.
and yes.
Oop. Shoot. What did I?
So if you don't know where you
Dang it.
you broke it, you fix it. The other thing you can do, and that is like the super important, that works. You can also do shift.
Shift. Whoa.
That is basically like our combined, I think in VS Code it's Command P and Command Shift P. So it basically takes you everywhere where you want to go. So you could look for terminal there, you can look for settings, you can literally do everything there. It also takes you to all existing TypeScript symbols. So if you don't know where you need to go, this will take you there.
Nice. And I've got my grid options. Okay.
Yep. If you wanna, yeah, I don't know how you work with Git, but we also have like GitHub integration so that you can look at issues, look at PRs, and all this stuff. But truth be told, I also use a terminal because I'm too stupid for GUIs for Git.
What a silly thing to say. I love that. I'm too stupid for the GUI, so I use the terminal.
So at the beginning of my career, I was like, okay, so we were like a small Linux shop, so terminal was like high in favor for most of them. And like my manager was using terminal for Git stuff, and he was also like, well, I never understand Git GUIs. I think I tried like 2 or 3, so I was like, well, they don't work for me. I don't understand this. So, and I mean, the Git terminal, you usually need like 3-4 commands if you're not doing like fancy rebasing stuff.
Sure.
But
yeah, I like doing the commands manually, but it is kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. It gets in the way.
I've heard that people love our Git integration. It's like one of the very common requests that we put that as a separate product out there. There are some features where I like this, like merging stuff is really nice, but like most of the time I use the terminal.
Okay. Got it. Well, let's check out main, git pull, pm. All right, so I'm going to just try to make a new branch here, rerun base. So let's, I'm going to make a new temp directory, cd. Apparently I already have a temp directory. Make dir temp cd temp into it. So when you run npx create TypeScript app, that's a little CLI that I made that lets you offline lets you just like
Little
spin up a
CLI
new
with
repo
like
quickly with a bunch
300
of settings.
parameters.
Yeah. they're all optional. It'll prompt you for ones if you don't provide it. But yeah.
That's pretty
So
cool.
what should happen is if you honestly, thanks. I'm really excited about this tool. If you select a base, like all the tooling, and then quit out, like if it errors or something, it should offer you to rerun the same command again. Well, this sucked. Oh, I worked in offline and it didn't have the patch package catch. That's another issue. Anyway, now it's frozen. This is great. Everything base. There we go. So if it errors out, it should suggest to rerun the same commands.
Well, that's
but
cool.
There's no -- base. Yeah. So the bug is the rerun command should include -- base everything or whatever it is you said.
I see.
Makes sense so far?
That makes sense, yeah.
Cool. So suppose I had no knowledge of this repository that I made. How would you as a developer suggest I use Webstorm to figure things out?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a great question. So I would probably start with the file explorer, and this is probably also the only instance where I would use the file explorer because I have not even looked at your repository. I've heard of your create TypeScript app, but I have not looked at it. So the first thing where I usually start is like with the package JSON to understand like what is run and where it starts.
Sure.
So you can do shift package JSON. Yep.
Also, there's a question in the chat. Does Webstorm utilize, I don't know how to say that symbol, key on Mac for shortcut?
Like the paragraph kind of in like LaTeX? I'm not aware of like those particular Mac shortcuts. If that triggers something or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's see, I'm on a Windows ergonomic keyboard for my Mac. I don't see anything like that. I believe you that it exists though, Demian.
But out of curiosity, I really don't know what it does. So my answer is a well-educated maybe.
Great. Okay. What's next?
Okay, so
Package
here it says
JSON.
that that the main that you go to index.js. So that seems reasonable. I could have thought about that. So you can also just do command on that file to go there. Just saying it.
Oh, there we go. So it's taking me to lib-index.js, even though I'm a TypeScripty project with source index TS
I
as a
see.
preference.
Is that referenced in? Hmm. I see. So you do
Interesting.
compile it before checking it in, or you run the command.
I believe it's pnpm build, which is a little utility that basically runs TypeScript to build.
I see.
Or
Gotcha.
sorry, I think it runs ES build to build, and it runs TypeScript to type check in parallel.
Yeah. That whole ES build thing is super confusing, particularly if you've done TSC before. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Sorry, I just see that the paragraph sign apparently toggles the terminal. We do have a shortcut for that. I think it is something with F12 or something. If you do shift toggle terminal, I think that would work. I just don't know the keyboard shortcuts for that right now.
On my Windows keyboard, it's Alt print screen. Oh, sorry, no, Alt F12. Cool, thanks.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So you're on a Mac but with a Windows keyboard?
Yeah, Mac Pro M1 Max, and then I have an ergonomic keyboard. I have a mechanical in my closet. It's just hurts the wrists for a while, so
I'm switching
I can switch
to
back.
an ergonomic keyboard right now, but I'm like, I feel so stupid. So slow.
I feel like the internet's so into like mechanical keyboards. You type 1.14 times faster, and then I'm like, well, my wrists, my little wrists.
I
Life is
do
hard.
have a ergonomic mechanical keyboard, so I'm I'm probably like on the pinnacle of how terrible this is. Well, that could be worse. Okay, so so you have the
So that's the
index.js
main.
somewhere.
Yes.
Let's go to
Source
index.js.
Yes. So this actually, I can tell you just from prior knowledge of the package to save us some time. This
Okay.
is the Node API index example file, but the actual bin is from bin index.js.
That makes sense.
Come on. Oh, bin index.js, which reads somewhat confusingly from source bin index.ts. So it's like a separately delineated entry point for the bin binary.
That makes sense. So, I
like how it has the inline indications of the names of parameters. I'm not used to that. I know that's been a thing that was added to other editors. It's just hard to get used to.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so I would assume that, I mean, for that you somewhere have to have like a cache of all the stuff running, right? So I would assume
yes. So
there's great rerun
options
suggestion. Interesting.
Yes. So I can, again, shortcuts. That is where it's made. So I'm thinking this function is where we'll have to update the thing. And in this particular repo, again, shortcutting. Is there a way to focus on the current file in the project view?
You see that like aim at the top of the file explorer there, like this? Yes. There is a setting where it always does that, so you can configure that based on your preference. Like if you go to the 3 dots next to it, there's a setting for that, I think. Or or that. Yeah, now you also see you don't have that little thingy anymore.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Nice. All right, so I've got the file here, and I've got its tests on the on the file next to it. I also keep clicking the VS Code shortcut to toggle the sidebar, which is not
So
working. How do you toggle project view?
with the same shortcut that you would open it, which is I think Alt F3 maybe.
Oop, that's a bookmark. Oh, 1. There we go. On me, it's Windows key 1.
Okay.
Cool.
So you want to write a test first?
Sure. TDD it.
Sure.
By the way, I should have warned you. I tend to just go out and do things when pairing. It's a real problem.
I'm not a big fan of TDD either, but my manager would right now be so happy, and I might get a promotion for that. So let's TDD it.
Awesome. So, spell checking here. Interesting. All right, so I'm just
one fun fact. Sorry, it's just hilarious, but we do have support for Oxford Commas.
Let's go! Yes, the only correct way to live your life.
It's such a stupid feature from my perspective. I mean, it's super funny, and every time I tell someone, they're like, "Oh, this is hilarious," but we do have like a whole grammar checking.
This. Wait, you have a grammar checker in Webstorm?
Yeah.
Do people use that? I feel like developers tend to not do well in those regards.
Well, so we are now working on our own documentation for like Kotlin and Webstorm and all those things is built with a product called WriterSide that we're working on, and that comes with a grammar engine to check grammar and stuff. And parts of that are then getting. We do even have like Grazi, which is like a AI Grammarly kind of thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely worth checking it out. We're trying to integrate that for our advocates blog post channel right now, where we're like basically getting quality gates for like grammar issues because I'm good at grammar.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I think that's really cool. All right, so right now I'm seeing, just quickly skimming through these tests, we have a base set of options.
Mm-hmm.
Is this type here? Is this why is it just colon? Okay.
Are we not?
Type,
it looks like we're not properly supporting the satisfy there. The satisfy parameter that got added with. If you would do it as const, or
so a type assertion as options works, as const is still no. Is it that it won't print out giant inline object literal types like this one?
Yeah, could be, but I know that's one of the things but I mean, with satisfy as option, it should just say options. That's interesting.
All right.
We'll take that with me. That is one of the things that we're having an improvement plan for the next version. So this is a great a great time to follow back for that.
Cool.
We'll make it.
This is one of the. I don't want to say downside like product downsides, but like development cycle downsides of doing a lot of custom stuff, right? Like you end up having to do a lot of work yourself.
Yes.
I'm also noting that I liked. I think this is also in other editors, but when I did like as const or something, the whole sidebar whenever there's a TypeScript error got all red. I know that's in VS Code and others too, which is to me that's like one of the nice little UI delighters you get in an editor. All right. So we have, while you're firing, Jira, Kanban, whatever.
I don't want to talk about
it. We got our basic options object here, and then that's passed to create rerun suggestion to generate an actual string, and then we expect it to match an inline snapshot, which is like a vtest, standard JavaScript testing framework feature. So if I'm just going to dot only this so that we don't, if I run in the terminal, run a bunch of them, and I'm seeing that base everything is in the snapshot. So that means that the problem probably is not in create rerun suggestion. I'm thinking the problem is probably whoever created the options and passed it to create rerun suggestion. Thoughts?
Interesting. Yeah, sounds like it.
Okay. So let's say I wanted to go to create rerun suggestion, as you suggested earlier. I'm command clicking go to it. Is there like a
Mhm.
find all references?
Yes, and it is some fancy find usages. Apple F7. Is that what it says? It's kind of option F7.
Option F7. Okay, let me just close this. If there's a shortcut, I will beeline towards the shortcut. Okay, yeah, cool. Ooh. I like how it delineates where or like what section the usage is, like unclassified, usage and function call, and so on. That's really
Yeah,
nice.
this can be helpful because this way we can also, for instance, go to a JS or a TS doc comment. And that might be cool if you want to change documentation that is related on that part. Those kind of things are possible with that, but you might not always need that. So having the differentiation, I think, is really cool. Helps me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. You also, by the way, this is like a minor pet. This is going to touch on a completely separate minor pet peeve of mine. You have it usage and string constants, which I
Yeah.
love. That I've never seen anyone else do that.
It
Tell me,
is
please.
it's a curse and a blessing. Because if you're in like a business application and you have your like functional entities that are like weirdly specific, then you have like 500 records or usages. So it's
Sure.
in for like tests and stuff. I love that fact. Sometimes in documentation. So I was working on a software a couple years ago, and then because we also had like huge JSON documents that we dealt with that also had that string sequence, so it was just like so many information.
Sure. I love that though. Yeah, no, when it's done well, it's nice. I'll also say for this specific case, I do wish it was more common in JavaScript TypeScript land to just pass the name of the thing to the tester like that. I actually added that feature to Jest and it just took time to try to add it to Vite or pardon me,
That would
Vitest.
be cool.
But it just to me,
Yeah,
it's like we have the name on the thing. Like when it gets renamed, I don't want to have to manually do the string, you know?
and I mean, and then it's also a reference, so a lot of the LSP based tool would work a lot better with that.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
well,
it's a good
life
idea.
is hard. Cool. So it's used in. Ooh, so I'm actually just going to close the code window altogether because it's just showing me side by side. So it's used in an important index, which then we can search in the file. It
Well, it
is
should be
used with
listed
options. Options.
again, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Yep. In
No, you're fine.
source bin index function call. Yeah. It's funny. I'm used to one way, so I do that way, and then your mind jumped to the other way, right? The objectively more efficient
Yeah.
way in this scenario. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. Well, it took me a while from getting to like in VS Code. Let's be real. Like most of the time, I did like string search for certain things, and it takes some time to break those habits.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's honestly just more efficient to do a string search, you know, if you've got the
True.
string in your mind.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. So what's happening is options is coming from awaits runners of mode, parentheses, some stuff. Runners is an object conveniently created right here with create, initialize, and migrate. So we can infer that mode is mode, which is create, initialize, migrate. There we go. Export type module. Oh, wait, hang on. What? That's not what mode is. Interesting. It thinks that mode is FS mode, but it's actually the result of prompt for mode, which returns prompted mode. Can I like go to the thing from this?
You should.
Okay, well, I'll just copy and paste that.
I might be mixing things up that are coming with the next with the feature that I was looking at last Thursday. So
All right. Well,
I was
anyway,
hoping.
very
Yeah.
exciting. You got the stuff in the line of release. But yes, so mode is one of these three things. So just as an example one, we were looking at create.
Actually, let's do one funny thing. Can you do shift?
Shift.
And then registry. Enter. And you can now just type, I think, TypeScript. Just type. It will automatically search.
Are you okay.
Give me a second.
Sure.
So we have a new TypeScript engine that has more correct type inference. It is still under development, but I think for a stream like that, we can play with it a little bit. I'm just not quite sure with the registry flag to activate it. TypeScript, give me a second. You are in the latest EAP version, right? You said?
Sorry, the latest what version? EAP?
We've figured out. It's like our early access program. So you should have TypeScript compiler evaluation. Yes, like the third. No, sorry, still registry.
I was just checking if I read the thing.
TypeScript compiler evaluation. Yes. Check. Close. And now check again for mode, what it's inferred to.
Is there like a reload window type thing I have to do? Also, where I'm in this like file within a file view, I have to imagine experimental settings, and that might be hard to get right.
That could be.
Mode, export type.
Okay.
Scoping is hard. Scoping is really hard to get right.
No, worth a try, but.
Oh well. Anyway, it's actually not even on the path that we're looking for. Okay. Because we're looking for where does options come from, and in this case, it comes from a function we are running called create, which returns. Let's see, which returns a so create is a function that takes in args and your prompted options, anything prompted for. Returns options, input options, and so forth. So I'm guessing at some point options.base was not set before it was returned back to the user, which comes from a way to read options. Aha. There's mapped options here. Then at the very end, let's see, we return mapped options, which has values.base initially set. So I'm guessing later on between this mapped options variable and when it actually returns, we eventually don't set options.base. Does that sound right to you? I don't know how fast I'm going.
You're fine. I'm just a little bit surprised that this has to be set this explicitly and not just working on the reference.
Yeah.
But that might be my lack of understanding of how things work together.
Is there like a fold all command? Collapse
fold
all, expand all? VS Code calls it folding. You call it expando or expanding.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's always interesting to see what features other people use. I've literally neither in VS Code nor in Webstorm even looked for a feature like that.
I find it useful because speaking as the author of this file is a pain in the butt and it's way too big. And even with folding, it's too much. So I like that.
Looking at it, I can see why this is helpful.
So here we have read options. And actually, what I'm going to do is what was the terminal thing? Was it Alt F7?
F12?
F12? Thank you. Yeah. What is it? Is there a shortcut to split terminal right? To make a new one?
I don't think so. I'm not sure though.
I'd love to make a new terminal that I can like show side by side, you know?
Yeah.
Tabs, view mode.
That's a good question.
Well, either way.
I don't think there
Start
is a
out
shortcut for
pgm
that.
build.
You can, yeah, so if you do right click on local 2, you can say split right.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's no shortcut associated for that.
Great. Well, this works for me. Don't ask again.
Easy.
That's on the left. I'm going to start a build in watch mode. I'm going to say the passing in. So I'm just going to console log debug. Oh wait, actually, I have a person who works on the editor here. I should probably use the editor to debug my my command that's running weird, right?
So for my promotion, I say yes. I'm usually also very console log affine debugger, but we have nice features, so let's do it. Let's play with it.
Okay,
but I have to say there are instances where console logging is just superior. As an RxJS developer, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Anything with currying, you know. So I'm gonna say just running the node. Oh yeah.
So you can make it even easier than that. Go to package.json.
Oh, the problem is I wanna precede the way that the issue had.
Oh, okay.
So does that cut this off or?
No, keep going.
Okay, because by default it'll prompt you like what organization do you want to put under Joshua Cake and so on, and that's like so I'm gonna just zoink everything that it says here. Can I make just like a new file? Like in I just want to make a new Scratch file.
Yeah, we have Scratch files. Shift Scratch.
Cool. Of course you do. All right, so it's node blah blah blah, node create blah blah blah. All right. Clear. Cool. So I want to be able to run that.
Ignore. Love that.
It's about the base. So I want to have it inspect break. Like I want to debugger this shindig, and how do I do that?
So okay, you now have the terminal or like the command you want to execute, right? So what you can do is go to the very top. Pointing on my monitor is super helpful. So you see where it at the top says greet.logs to the console once something. Next to the vtest icon in the top bar, more on the right side.
Oh, here.
Yes. So there you say what you want to do is go to the select box again.
Sorry, what is select box?
Like click on create.logs, not on the 3 dots. Yes. And there are edit configurations. And now you can do click on the plus in the left corner, sorry. And there it should say Node.js.
Okay. All right. Temp parameters, application parameters. Oh, sweet lordy. So node parameters, I'm guessing I want to say bin index.js.
That sounds about right. I don't think you need the node, yeah. Could also be the JavaScript. I think this might actually be the JavaScript file, but we'll see.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
That would, and I think node parameters would be like max. That's Java, but like the how much RAM you want to allocate and those kind of things.
I used to do that a lot back in the day.
So now you should be able to run and debug that. But let's start. Let's be a little bit cautious and just hit play. Let's play. The green thing next to it.
Path to JavaScript file. Oh, it's .. from that working directory. Okay. Hey, look at that. Cool.
So that works. You have now in that window you have like the red square thingy to terminate the process real quick so that we can start the debugger.
Cool.
Let's try it.
Let's do this.
I feel optimistic. So the debugger is a little, the bug next to it. And obvious.
And we are we stopped?
I think so. And all happened so fast.
It's frozen. Oh no.
What are you doing to our ID?
Sorry. I'm so sorry. In its defense, I have so many video streaming shindigs open right now. I'm honestly surprised it's been so smooth this current stream.
You're fine. But so usually it goes to that view when it hits a breakpoint. So it looks somewhat good, except for that waiting animation for Mac.
I am also clicking constantly, by the way.
That is known to be helpful.
It like sends more SIGINTs, right? That's how that goes. SIG terms.
It's also just very satisfying for the brain, so I get that.
My brain needs as much endorphin and dopamine rushing as possible. All right. Do I force quit at this point?
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe I don't. Sorry, Webstorm. Sorry, Jan.
No, it's fine. You gotta do what you gotta do. I would ask you to send me the logs. We can discuss how to do that later.
Oh yeah, sure. Happy to. As a true open source developer, what I'll do is I'll just send you an email saying everything sucks, it doesn't work on my machine, and then provide no reproduction. Just a heads up.
Honestly, like, truth be told, the amount of times I already get like, oh, this is the only or the last issue that prevents me from using Webstorm, so I have to use VS Code. I cannot hear it anymore.
Half the time it's a feature that doesn't exist in any editor too, right? It's just some random BS.
I don't want to even talk about it.
Moving on. All right, so it's happening again. So that's exciting. I got a deterministic repro. Interesting.
What are you doing to our ID?
Yet. All right, well. Do you have so in VS Code and other editors, some of them there's like a attached to currently running process, like the way like Chromium DevTools.
Yes, I think we have that too. I'm just not doing enough Node.js to let me figure it out. Give me a second.
Sure. In the meantime, I'll try to see if I can stumble onto it.
Okay, maybe hit the play again and we figure it out from there. Because I think there's a way.
One more try. No.
That's so weird.
Hello, welcome. Jan over here, who is a featured guest on the stream today. is showing me Webstorm, and it was honestly going really, really well until just before you joined. Good timing.
How about you maybe watch the 30 minutes before just to not get like the wrong impression?
Yeah. But no, what we're
um,
trying to do is like a basic TypeScript contribution, just going through the flow of like, running tests, setting up the breakpoints, running a debugger. And by basic, I mean, for me, basic. I realized setting up a debugger configuration is normally provided for people in a repo. So yeah, I figured because this feature, oh, you know what it is? It might be because we enable the experimental TypeScript stuff. I bet that's probably what's going on.
yeah, that might honestly, yeah. Let's revert that just in case. So registry. That's a good point.
Yes. Also, to answer the question, yeah, the project is Create TypeScript App. It is a long running one. You might have been, I forget if you were here or if your last hangout here was with that one. But there's a bug where when it suggests rerunning a command when you abort running it, the suggestion doesn't include one of the very important points. Whoa. I like the
You have the
experimental
restore
UI more.
defaults at the bottom just in case you clicked something weird.
I think I did click something weird. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
By the way, I love the blue and green and yellow kind of visual
Thank
design.
you.
Really pretty.
Thank you.
Oh wait, I like the other UI more. The new experimental one. It's flashier or like more prominent. I don't know how to describe it. Okay, yeah, this is correct. Yep, you were right. It was the experimental features killing us.
I will put that on my list.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool.
to be fair, it's an
All
experimental
right.
feature for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we got the debugger. We got what's happening. What what have you been working on, Dev? For us, what we saw was that there is a utility function called create rerun suggestion, which takes in options and prints a rerun suggestion. The options being passed to it are missing one property, just so happens the base BASE property. So now let's take a look at the debugger. I want to see what the let's see what the prompted options look like. How do I look at the local? Here we go. Prompted options is undefined, so there is nothing passed. Okay. Prompted options undefined. Args is mode create access public blah 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 blah. Create owner. Okay.
Doesn't have base though.
Doesn't have base. That's not in the args that was passed to it. It should be that base is added once we prompt the user for them. So if we step
Oh, I see.
over, yeah, I guess step into.
Okay, now I also, sorry, that was the part where I was earlier like, okay, why are you not just working on whatever is handed into it? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Listening comprehend.
Cool.
It's an advanced skill.
So base is okay. So there's some like defaulting logic for base that should probably call get default base. There's no default base, so now we continue. Step over base repository. Checking to make sure GitHub is got a word. Blah blah blah. Title. You have a guide. There's too many goddamn options in this thing already. Here we go. And nothing around base. Why is this going inside here? I don't know. Okay, so now we go into this utility function. Let's step into, oh my gosh. Haha! There is the setting for base. Const
Okay.
base is either options.base, which is undefined.
Which is not the case.
Or we get the filter prompt. I'm going to say, just going to hit enter. Process console. Aha! Everything. So now base is everything. I think I see the bug. We don't we don't actually return base in this. We return the previously existing options and then
Yeah.
any other stuff.
Well, but you hand base into get exclusions, and get exclusions is just this is what we not want in a result.
Yeah, let's look at get exclusions. Switching on the base. Yeah, it never what a funny oversight. It never actually sets base. Nothing set the base property.
Yeah.
Can I like duplicate the view split right type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep asking you these questions and then doing it before
There is
giving you
also
a
a
chance to
shortcut.
answer.
I think you can also shift click on a file in the tab explorer at the top.
Ooh.
Did
that
it close
came
it? Oops.
Dang All right, go back.
Sorry. So you also have Shift E for recent files. Sorry, Apple Command E.
Ooh,
So that's
okay.
And I think there it is when you hit. Never mind. It's probably wrong again anyway, and I closed your stuff.
Cool. All right, so when the base is common minimum or anything, it's missing the base property, so that should fix this. When it's prompt, we also miss it. Cool, I think that should probably fix the bug. I feel good about that.
Same.
Having not actually tested it.
You can I can give you an looks good to me in the pull request.
Awesome. Cool. All right, so now what I would want to do is rerun tests to see if anything fails, given that we're modifying at least one file, the augment options with excludes.
Oh, yeah, you have
Also
some red
wanted to
squigglies
spell it.
in read options. Oh, is that
I typed
you did
ELT.
add a console log somewhere, right?
I think I started and then we switched to
Okay.
fancy debugging. Ooh, look at this can be simplified. Is that right? What type is auto?
So for this can be simplified.
Huh.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong.
You're right that it's not wrong, and I'm honestly surprised that the default set of lint rules I have enabled doesn't catch that. Huh. So there is like a set of static analysis things that come with Webstorm that are just there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we had those already in place for like Java with a lot of things, because those like the concepts of like what you do are like similar, right? And then we work those off to some extent. Some of them are debatable. So I like the fact that it's just a warning where it tells you like, hey, you might want to consider changing this, and not being like all red and angry, being like, okay, this is just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. The training of users is really intense and interesting there. I think that you have to be very careful with what you actually position as an error, because they will get trained to just ignore errors if you're too, everything is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So let's pop open the terminal. My default command here that I'd run is this terminal run? There we go. pm run test run -u to update snapshots. See if anyone fails. I'll just start running tests. Now, okay, looks like no unit test failed, and I'd want to see, did any snapshots update or anything? Is there like
So
a view for
the
that?
commit view has all the files changed. That's probably what you would look at. Yeah. And you might look, there are some unversioned files.
Oh yeah.
Good job, commit view.
Good.
Oops. Yeah, you might want to check that into.
I don't want to check in 7 files. What is that? Why does it do this?
Just,
is that all my settings?
Those are settings that you did in
Whoa. Big ol' screamy under
So
score case.
those things are nice if like your whole team works with IntelliJ, because it has like high level capabilities, kind of like Prettier. Not by far not as sophisticated. So we also have Prettier integration, but if you don't want to use Prettier or something, and all your team is using VS Code, checking those things in at least ensures you consistent formatting to some extent.
Sure. Makes sense.
But yeah, I would not check them in.
Got it. I'll just leave them there. What I like about VS Code is like there's one file, like .vs Code /settings JSON, which is like pretty user readable. It's one format. That's if there was a single file.
I mean, you also have tasks and you have lunch and those.
Oh, true.
You also have multiple things. But yeah, I agree. It's like this comes from like JavaLint, where everything has to be an XML file, even though it's still better than YAML, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, not a big YAML fan myself.
It's a fucking worse. Sorry, I'm probably not supposed to curse, but it's the worst.
Yeah. All right, so I added in dot only. Whoopsies. But other than that,
you said it should have updated snapshots, huh?
Looks like augment file options with excludes doesn't have any tests associated. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm in the test file and it looks like it already set base to everything.
But are you checking for base in the end?
I think this, you know what, just from prior knowledge as the project owner, I'm pretty sure it just I'm pretty sure it just isn't tested, this whole area.
That happens in open source projects? Huh.
Yeah.
That is news to me.
Collapse all. Yeah. If we just look at the test names, one provided manually is the only set of tests. Okay. So you know what? I think I'm also getting tired. We've been here for a little more than an hour, almost hour and a quarter. So I think I'm happy to just call this. Also, Nico Swansor in the chat. Hello. Thanks for subscribing. Or resubscribing. Anyway, cool. So if I were to make a commit, is there like a the thing to do?
Yes, that's the commit window. So you check which file you want to commit. There is also fairly recently we added the feature where you can do partial commits. If that, just to have it mentioned. So you can basically look through like a file and say, I want to add this line to the commit, but not the rest of the changes. But you want this whole file, so yep.
Push.
So one thing that is coming that I'm kind of excited about, because I see you use conventional commit here format. We have our AI integration that is like separate product and like comes with its own subscription. But in the next, I think it's the next update, we identify whether you're using conventional commits based on the existing commit history, and then in this window it will let you, based on the changes that you did, auto generate the commit message using the same format based on existing commit logs.
That's cool.
It's kind of neat.
Awesome. I have a PGP mismatch in my local system that I keep forgetting to fix, so I just set that up off screen. So now if I get push, I click the wrong button here, so I don't get the nice option. All right, awesome. It still annoys me. GitHub has issues, templates for forms that are really nice, but nothing for PRs. I'm still manually flipping through these.
I know. And I mean, the issue for that is like a feature that came out like 3-4 years ago, at least.
Yeah. Still in beta.
Cool. What?
Technically speaking,
I didn't know that.
Still in beta. Great feature, though. Truly wonderful. Okay, so attaches base to the options returns during augmentation, so they can get printed out later. Co-authored by... Do you have a particular...
Jan-Niklas _ Wortmann, I think. The same.
Are you saying that's your GitHub handle?
Oh, yeah, that's GitHub. Yeah.
So, fun fact: the co-authored by feature in Git is not actually supposed to, or it's not made to use GitHub names.
Gotcha.
It's in Git level, not GitHub level. So
Yeah,
the
that works.
correct way to do this would be to have like an email, but I also set up my co-author parsing thing to recognize GitHub names. So, do you have a preference?
Whatever. I really don't.
Let's just do. Okay, awesome. Well, this was fun. I
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm starting to get like the instinctive, like shortcut usage knowledge. Was there anything else you wanted to look at in WebStorm while we're here?
Um, One thing that might be interesting for you, and you probably use something similar in VS Code, is we have pretty type errors now, where we try to simplify error messages, basically. Because sometimes if you have like big TypeScript types and you have like you're just off by a property or something, it's really hard to identify what's going on. So we have integrated
Yes.
that recently. That is a nice thing.
Awesome. Let me open up a file and see what that looks like. So let's say I've like got this thing here and then like it's misused in some way. So I've got this big old complaint here.
No. So you have syntax highlighting for your type already, as you see here with like the color highlighting, and then we formatted it saying, okay, you're missing option access or the access property. So
Cool. Is this what we should be looking at?
yes.
Awesome.
So that's one of the things that I like that we recently did that you would probably appreciate to some extent, working in on the question why not contribute better error messages back to TypeScript. That is a good point. The problem here is that this needs to be agnostic and extensible. As a like if you're working in in TypeScript, it's very complex to identify the errors, so it has to be very generic. Does that make sense what I'm saying, or am I
Are
talking
you asking?
gibberish? I hope.
Are you
Yeah,
asking me
yeah.
or us? Yeah, no,
Does it
that,
make
that
sense
makes
to
sense.
you?
Sorry,
Okay.
makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. So providing just like more meaningful errors in the language server or something would be very challenging. Therefore, on the other hand, providing a UI condensing those information is a lot easier task, and also more extensible, because you might also have different expectations how far this would look in VS Code versus how it looks here. So a little bit of a different approach. That's one thing that I like, but I'm also terrible with CSS. We have IntelliSense. I think technically, I think IntelliSense is a Microsoft coined term, but we have IntelliSense for CSS names and stuff. And even like integrating with the Tailwind's language server and those kind of things. So that's one thing for people that are not CSS professional like me. Really handy to just get like autocomplete on class names and stuff.
Word. I think
Um, mhm.
if I can speak to the TypeScript thing, I think there's a really interesting potential future that the community, the industry could go down, which is that right now TypeScript reports back errors in roughly something of a plain text markdown like format. It's not a programmatic format. So yes, I agree. It would be nice for these error messages to be made more readable. And then you can do things like cleaning it up as markdown, formatting code blocks, and so on. But what I'd love to see is like more explorations into like Rust style, like really nice, like this is where the type is, that's where it's declared, like in the error message visualized to users themselves. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a world.
I think there's good potential with like all the plugins and stuff coming out right now to drive innovation in this area. Because also the other thing I saw the other day is you don't have autocomplete for string literal types in the TypeScript language server,
Huh. I tried
which
to add
is
that in actually.
it
It's
is a
hard.
very niche feature, but it would be super cool. And the yeah, To be fair, we also don't support it. I filed an issue for it.
Yeah,
But
it's
there are
hard.
things that are just extremely hard to do right. So having plugin authors experiment with some certain things is a good idea, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, but I think we covered a surprisingly good amount of things I
For
want to
sure.
touch on. One thing that you being more in React land might be interesting for you. We have a thing called structured view. If you go in any file, any TypeScript file,
Mhm.
and then shift structure. No.
I have an option or a
Yes, this
definition
one.
of structure.
So we basically provide it. Kind of fits a similar purpose of your collapse everything.
Hmm.
The thing, I don't think this really makes a whole lot of sense here in this particular context to use, but we
Sure.
did extend this to a very fine level for React components, where it highlights what hooks are you using, what higher order components are you using on like a file level. So that could be a good thing to get like overview. We also break down the DOM tree that, or like the JSX tree. So for navigating in a React component, this could be a nice thing. That is a feature that is like coming out in the next version.
Very exciting. Cool.
Yeah.
To answer to the chat, yeah, you can get autocomplete on like string union types and such, but going to definition on a string literal is surprisingly difficult to do in some cases. Uh, there's an issue somewhere in TypeScript's issue track where people are like trying to put like bounties and like string literals. You can tell I've like vaguely tried to search for this before. Here we go. Uh, the technical term is interning. Like they take the string literal type and then just duplicate it with all the similar ones, kind of like how JavaScript has immutable strings. And then the result is it's actually surprisingly difficult to figure out in certain contexts what the specific string literal type you're trying to get to is, as opposed to just the global concept of that particular literal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Jan, is there any particular way that people would want to find you on the internet that you'd prefer people
I
look for
hate
you
to
on?
say it, but probably X is the best way to reach out to me. I I feel dirty saying it, but it is probably the best way. LinkedIn does work. I try to be more tentative on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn also feels kind of weird as a developer.
Yeah.
So Twitter is probably the best way, and yeah, that's my username. If you haven't seen the video that I mentioned there from Jason Langsdorff, it's so stupid good. Go watch that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he did this all by himself, but he must have used like a whole production studio for that. Like they filmed it in like a diner or something. There's like hardly any background noise. He uses different camera angles. He has a drone shot for like B-roll stuff in the beginning.
Jeez.
It just like the content is great too. It's like a Google developer. I didn't know him before, but it's a Google developer talking about stuff. It's good content, but like just the production quality of that video is like insane. I shared it in our internal channel in JetBrains, and everyone was like, "The fuck."
That's awesome.
So
I love it.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this,
Getting
Josh. This was fun.
Yeah, no, thanks for hopping on. Sorry, I'm just queuing it up in the background, so I'll watch it later. But
Yeah,
no, thanks for hopping on. I really appreciate you walking me through the product through Webstorm, and I'm hopeful that this was useful in some way.
every time. If there are some follow-up questions or something, X Twitter is the best place to reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions or jump on a quick call and figure things out. So just reach out.
Awesome. Cool. Well, in that case, I'm gonna hang up, and this has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
same. Thanks.
Bye.